Snow drifted gently from the night sky, blanketing the quiet streets of downtown Brookfield in a soft, shimmering glow. Christmas lights twinkled in shop windows, and the distant sound of carols echoed faintly through the cold air. Inside a small, drafty apartment on the third floor of an old brick building, Lena Brooks struggled to fasten her worn coat while keeping an eye on the clock. The cracked hands pointed to 7:45 p.m., and her heart sank. She was already late, again. Her blind date was supposed to start at 7, but between rushing home from her evening shift at the diner and making sure her 7-year-old son Eli was fed, bathed, and tucked in, time had slipped through her fingers like sand. "Mom, do you really have to go?" Eli asked, his voice sleepy but curious as he peeked from his blanket fort. Lena smiled softly, brushing the hair from his forehead. "It's just dinner, sweetheart. I won't be long." In truth, she wasn't sure why she was even going. Her best friend, Mara, had arranged the date, insisting Lena needed to do something for herself for once. "He's a good guy," Mara had said over the phone. "Smart, kind, and apparently single. Just go, Lena. You deserve to smile again." But Lena wasn't sure she remembered how. Since her husband's death 3 years ago, her life had become a cycle of exhaustion: work, motherhood, bills, repeat. Romance was a luxury she couldn't afford. Still, as she slipped into her scuffed boots and wrapped her faded scarf around her neck, she felt something stir inside her, a quiet, unfamiliar hope. Maybe Mara was right. Maybe she could use one evening to remember who she used to be. Outside, the snow bit at her cheeks as she hurried down the street toward the bus stop. Her breath fogged the air, and her thin gloves did little to fight the cold. The bus arrived late, its headlights cutting through the storm, and by the time she reached the restaurant, a golden-lit haven of warmth and laughter, it was nearly 8. Her reflection in the glass door made her hesitate. She looked out of place among the elegant couples inside, her old coat and second-hand dress whispering stories of struggle and survival. She almost turned around. But then she remembered Eli's smile, and Mara's words echoing in her head, "You deserve to smile again." Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside. The smell of cinnamon and roasted chestnuts filled the air, and the soft murmur of conversation blended with gentle Christmas music. Her eyes scanned the tables until they found a man sitting alone near the window. Alexander Hayes. She recognized him instantly, the calm confidence in his posture, the kindness in his eyes as he looked up and met her gaze. He stood, smiling, not impatiently, not disappointedly, but warmly, as though he'd been waiting for her all along. And in that moment, as Lena's heart fluttered in her chest, she realized something she hadn't felt in years. Maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late for miracles. Lena's hands trembled as she approached the table, her breath catching in her throat. Every part of her wanted to apologize for being late, for not fitting into the kind of world this man clearly belonged to. But before she could speak, Alexander Hayes smiled, a real, gentle smile that melted the anxiety right out of her. "You made it," he said softly, standing to pull out her chair. "I was beginning to think Christmas miracles were just a myth." His voice carried a calm warmth that eased the tension in her shoulders. She let out a shaky laugh, brushing the snow from her coat. "I'm so sorry," she began, "the bus broke down halfway here and—" He raised a hand lightly, his tone reassuring. "No need to explain. I'm just glad you're here." As she sat down, she noticed the restaurant's candlelight dancing across his face, sharp lines softened by kindness, the faint weariness of a man who worked too much but cared too deeply. The waiter appeared, and she glanced nervously at the menu. Everything was expensive, far beyond anything she could ever justify. When Alex noticed her hesitation, he leaned forward slightly. "Don't worry about the prices," he said gently. "Just get whatever you'd enjoy most." But she still chose the cheapest option, embarrassed by the thought of him thinking she'd come for a free meal. He didn't comment, only smiled as if he understood. They began to talk, at first awkwardly, weather, Christmas decorations, the chaos of last-minute shoppers. But soon, the small talk melted into something more meaningful. Lena found herself telling him about Eli, how bright and curious he was, how he wanted to be an astronaut one day, how she worked nights at the diner so she could be home when he got off school. As she spoke, her eyes shone with both exhaustion and pride. Most people looked away when she mentioned being a single mother, but Alex didn't. He listened. Really listened. His gaze stayed steady, his expression thoughtful. When she asked about him, she was surprised by his honesty. He didn't talk about business, money, or status. Instead, he spoke of loneliness, how the success he'd built came with empty holidays and missed family dinners. People think having everything means you're happy, he said quietly, stirring his coffee. But sometimes, it just means you've run out of reasons to keep chasing more. His words hung between them, heavy yet comforting in their truth. By the time dessert came, a slice of shared chocolate cake, Lena had forgotten about the clock, her worries, even the world outside. They laughed over silly stories, teased each other about Christmas traditions, and when the snow began to fall harder outside, she caught him watching her, not with pity, but admiration. As the clock struck midnight, the waiter placed a small candle between them. "Merry Christmas," he said cheerfully. Lena smiled shyly and whispered, "Merry Christmas." Alex's eyes softened. "It is now." In that quiet moment, surrounded by warmth and laughter, Lena realized that being late might have been the best thing that ever happened to her. The morning after Christmas arrived with a pale, golden light filtering through the thin curtains of Lena's small apartment. The faint hum of the city outside mixed with the gentle clatter of dishes as Eli tried his best to make breakfast. The smell of burnt toast filled the air, and Lena couldn't help but laugh softly as she joined him in the kitchen. "You're supposed to eat the toast, not burn it into art," she teased, and Eli grinned, proudly holding up his creation shaped like a crooked heart. But beneath her laughter lingered a quiet ache, memories of the night before replaying in her mind. The way Alexander had looked at her, listened to her, made her feel visible for the first time in years, it had been magical, unreal almost. Yet as she poured herself a cup of coffee, she reminded herself that people like him didn't fall for women like her. He'd been kind, nothing more. And she was grateful for that single evening of warmth in an otherwise cold season. But fate, it seemed, wasn't done with her yet. That afternoon, as snowflakes drifted lazily past the window, a firm knock echoed through the small apartment. Lena frowned, she wasn't expecting anyone. When she opened the door, she found a delivery man standing in the hallway, his cheeks red from the cold. "Package for Ms. Brooks," he said, handing her a small, neatly wrapped box with a cream-colored envelope attached. Her breath caught as she recognized the elegant handwriting. Carefully, she tore open the envelope. *for Eli and his brave mom. Thank you for reminding me what Christmas feels like. Alex*. Her fingers trembled as she unwrapped the box. Inside, nestled among tissue paper, was a small model car, red with silver stripes, the exact one Eli had pointed at weeks ago in a store window but she hadn't been able to afford. Beneath it lay another envelope. Inside were 2 tickets to the city Christmas fair, along with a note that read, *Let's make another memory. I'll be waiting by the carousel, *. Tears welled in her eyes before she could stop them. "Mom, what's wrong?" Eli asked, his voice filled with concern. Lena smiled through the blur of her tears and knelt beside him. "Nothing, baby," she whispered, pulling him close. "Santa's just full of surprises this year." That evening, she bundled Eli in his thickest jacket and took the bus downtown. The fair sparkled with thousands of lights, music filling the air, and laughter swirling around like snowflakes. And there he was, Alexander standing near the carousel, hands in his pockets, a smile spreading across his face the moment he saw them. He greeted Eli first, crouching to his level and handing him a balloon before turning to Lena. "I was hoping you'd come," he said softly. Lena's heart fluttered, her cheeks warm despite the cold. "I almost didn't," she admitted. "But then I remembered, you waited last night. I guess it's my turn now." He smiled, eyes gleaming with quiet affection. "Then I'd say the wait was worth it." And as they rode the carousel under the glowing Christmas lights, laughter and joy blending with the sound of bells, Lena realized that sometimes, the best gifts weren't wrapped in paper, they were found in people who chose to stay. As winter slowly melted into spring, the memory of that Christmas Eve never left Lena's heart. What began as a blind date had turned into something she never thought she would find again: peace, laughter, and love. Alexander Hayes became a part of her and Eli's lives so naturally that it felt like he had always been meant to be there. He visited the diner often, sitting at his usual corner booth, waiting patiently even when she was too busy to notice him right away. Sometimes he brought Eli small gifts, a puzzle, a book, or a pack of chocolate coins, but mostly, he brought his time, his kindness, and the warmth that their small family had been missing for years. One chilly evening in February, Lena found herself standing outside the diner after closing, watching Alex help Eli tie his scarf properly. The sight made her heart tighten. She had promised herself she wouldn't fall for anyone again, not after the heartbreak, not after the loneliness, but watching the two of them together, she knew it was already too late. When she finally spoke, her voice trembled with honesty. "You don't have to keep doing all this, Alex. You've already given us more than you know." He looked up, his expression soft but certain. "Lena," he said gently, stepping closer, "I don't do this because I have to. I do it because you make my world feel like home again." His words left her silent. For years, home had been a place of struggle, a cracked ceiling, overdue bills, quiet tears after Eli fell asleep. But standing there in the fading winter light, she realized that maybe home wasn't a place at all. Maybe it was a person. Months passed, and their bond only grew stronger. Alex introduced them to his sister, who adored Eli instantly, and soon Sunday dinners at his countryside home became a tradition. Lena often worried about their differences, his wealth, her modest life, but Alex always brushed it aside. "Love doesn't measure worth," he'd say. "It only recognizes hearts that fit." That spring, under a sky painted with soft sunlight, Alex surprised her. He took her and Eli to a small garden outside the city, filled with wildflowers and a white arch wrapped in ivy. "This place," he said, taking her hands, "is where I'd like to start the rest of our lives." Lena gasped as Eli ran up holding a tiny velvet box, grinning from ear to ear. Alex knelt on one knee, the world falling quiet around them. "Lena Brooks," he said, voice steady but full of emotion, "you walked into my life on Christmas Eve and reminded me what love feels like. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down her face as she nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes." As they exchanged vows weeks later, delicate snowflakes began to fall even though it was April. Lena looked up, laughing through her tears. "The snow waited for us," she said softly. Alex smiled, wrapping his arms around her. "Some miracles," he whispered, "never arrive late, they just wait for the right moment." And as they kissed beneath the unexpected snow, surrounded by love and laughter, Lena knew she had finally found her forever Christmas miracle.